Philibert's intubation tutorial. I'm Phil, and we'll be going through the steps necessary in order to intubate. We have a patient in distress, respiratory distress, and essentially what we're going to do is confirm that he is scheduled to be intubated. Chances are you're going to have a lot of situations which require just emergency intubation, but sometimes you might be fortunate enough to run into a case where you know ahead of time, but most times intubation is an emergency procedure. We're going to confirm that it's ordered for this patient. We're going to confirm their identity by checking their wristband or wherever they have their band to identify the patient. I'm going to identify myself as Philip Rivera, part of the respiratory department of X Hospital. My patient is DJ Khaled, and we're going to make sure that he's set to be intubated. I'm going to explain why he's going to be intubated. Chances are he's going to be in respiratory distress. He'll be hyperventilating, or just like in some sort of emergency situation which requires him to be intubated. He might not be able to communicate back to me. I need to explain the procedure, the risks, and the safety precautions. I'm going to make sure I wash my hands for 15 seconds, and make sure that they're dry completely. Put on some gloves. I'm going to make sure I have all my equipment with me. The Ambu, suction equipment. I'll have also an inline suction for when the ET tube is connected in the patient. I'm going to make sure I have my laryngoscope, posicufflator, capnometer, ET tube, stylet, syringe attached, inline suction, securing device. This is an Anchor Fast, made by Hollister. In case if I wanted to, I could switch blades. This is a Miller. This is a Macintosh attached to this scope. A Miller is used for people with short necks or fat necks. You're able to visualize the airway better and the structures within. For Macintosh, you lift at the vallecula, which is right before the epiglottis, and you want to make sure that this essentially will allow for much more easier movement of the tongue, which will be necessary for you to visualize your glottis and your vocal cords, so you know that you properly put your ET tube correctly. A mask for the Ambu bag, lubricant and lidocaine together. We're just going to say this is for the second purpose of the tutorial. We're just going to say they're put together. Yank hour. We have everything here. And now let's see. We have to make sure everything's working. This light's working. Can you see the light? Okay. Ambu bag is working correctly. What else? I want to make sure that the port on the ET tube, the cuff, is working properly. When you inflate it, you want to make sure that this pilot balloon is also inflating as well. Okay, and now we need to make sure that this is the beginning of the procedure. We made sure we have everything that we need. We made sure that the patient is correct. Usually in an emergency situation, you do this a lot quicker, but for the sake of the tutorial, we'll slow things down a little bit. Make sure the head is in the sniffing position. Make sure you have gloves on, make sure you're clean. You're going to make sure that you have the head erect, the chin facing towards the building, and you're going to always intubate. You're going to use your laryngoscope on the left hand, and you're going to slide from right to left, and you're going to lift like you're holding a beer, like cheersing. And okay, we're going to be making sure that the ET tube is lubricated. You want to make sure that so that it would be less painful for the patient, for sure. and less trauma will occur from that. So we slide in, we go from right, push to the left. I visualize my glottis. I'm making sure this is lubricated. I'm making sure this is the right size. 7.0 to 7.5 for women, 7.5 to 8.0 for men. You want to make sure you want to stop at the 21 to 23 centimeter mark. Have your stylet to help you guide you in. Then I'll remove my laryngoscope, take out my stylet, connect the capnometer to the ambu bag. Make sure remember this is very important, 30 seconds or less. Make sure that you don't exceed 30 seconds when you intubate. And you want to check for bilateral chest rise. Because this is a dummy, you can see the lungs normally in a regular person you couldn't. You always want to make sure you want to secure your ET tube with your hand, either on the left side or the right side, whichever seems to be the closest. And as you can see both lungs inflating rather than the stomach. If you are inflating the stomach, then that means you've had a bad intubation and you have to restart. And before you restart doing intubation, you want to make sure that your ambu bagging, you want to make sure that you're making ventilation happen to blow off that CO2 they have developed if they haven't had that ET tube placed in properly. And now when you've confirmed on the capnometer that you have CO2 return, you can take this off. You can begin putting you insert air into the syringe and make sure that you have a pressure of between 25 to 35 centimeters of water on your port. You double check that with your posy. All the while when you're going to make sure that you're going to be holding your ET tube properly. Okay, it's at you know what? Can you press stop?